Welcome to Yerba Talks.
Welcome to the Aftershow. I am Max. This is Kat. And today we had a debate between Dr. Greg and the one, the only Kent Hovind. No, sorry, cat attack. 1 second. No. Sally. No. I lay. Fuck. Stop. Cut. Out. Sally. Shh. No, don't fool me. No. Nope. No. My leg. I don't care if it's against TOS. It's not nice to say that. Cut. Stop. Okay. It looks like we've settled down. He's camping me. Go away. All right. Before we do anything, make sure to social things, like, share, subscribe, send this to your friends, send it to your significant other, go to the corner, yes, the corner of your street, and just subscribe to share about the talks. And that way we can share the love for the channel. All right. Let's do that. And pin. Like, dude, you know what you did. Like, you're literally wishing someone's death. So calm your tits and don't do that again, or I'll just remove you. So relax. All right. Pinned. Let's wait for some of our friends to come along. Let's get it on. All right. Hopefully Isa should be joining, and hopefully Dr. J. I also saw... Oh no. I also saw that another one of our friends appeared. The doctor was around. Was Kent crying about cows having cows? Yes, and bacteria having bacteria, and yada yada. The same old bullshit as always. The funny thing is that he was talking to a microbiologist that actually does a field work in the lab, and got a little bit flustered. We got some Ryan moments from Kent calling out like, mute his microphone. I can't do Kent's voice, but yeah, we had a lovely time. Where are our friends? Give me just a second. Let me check. There was, oh my God, there was such a competition for dumbest comment of the debate. That's the most. That's the section I'm most excited for. All right, guess I will begin. So Greg's opening was a little bit all over the place to my taste. No presentation, which is always bad, especially when you have Kent Hovind that he's going to, um, he's going to use the slides that he always uses. So there we have him, the one, the only Dr. J. Hello.
Hey, Max, what's up?
Doing awesome. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Did I miss a new debate, or did you watch another Ken Ham debate, of which I'm guessing you have seen that song and dance before?
No, this one happened today.
Oh, I don't mean new as in just happened. I mean, did he say anything different than he says every time?
Oh, no, it was the same thing as always. Welcome, Mike from the Drunk Debug Show. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine. You sound a little weird.
You're coming through my AirPod.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah, I don't. Hold on. Let me make sure.
You're getting ready to go to Florida, right?
That's right. I just did all my laundry. now I'm folding it and setting aside what I'm wearing. I'm wearing for the week.
Nice. So Greg's opening, it left a little bit to be desired. He made some very good points. That the evolutionary mechanisms have given us better healthcare, that there's a whole bunch of improvements that have come from human life because we understand that evolution happens, and it's true that we have improved the modern life, longevity, the breakthroughs that are going on with cancer research and so on. And he had some examples of the frontier of science, like CRISPR and the new techniques of fighting genetic diseases and so on. But it was a little bit scattered. It needed, I guess, a more conductive thread. And of course, dude, make a presentation. You work in the field. You have access to the best information there. So could have been better. Wasn't blown away, but overall good opening.
Tell me more about this guy. I guess I popped up and looked at his face here. Greg, I guess is his name. You say he works in the field, like he is some kind of scientist, or tell me about
microbiologist.
Okay.
Yes, he is an active scientist and works. Don't know what his specialty is, but he's been on MDD before. He debated Jim Bob on evolution. Absolutely crushed him. And he could have done better presentation wise when it comes to the opening, but yeah, it's
well, isn't Jim's Bob argument usually something like, I don't understand, it must be wrong, or something?
Yes.
That's kind
of Jim Bob is kind of one of the worst anti-evolution debaters, because all he does is what you said. And I told you on our Discord chat, Dr. J, that I was wondering what would anti-evolution people say if we ever got to create life in a lab, and you were spot on with your prediction. So great job there. Yes, he said it word for word what you said. It's like that requires intelligence, which requires a creator. So Kent's argument is heads I win, tails you lose.
Absolutely.
And that is a little bit of quite a dishonest way to argue, really.
Genius trick, maybe.
I guess. But I don't value that. I think that you should be open to falsification of your beliefs. There should be a parameter that tells you you're wrong, and we appreciate that, or I appreciate that. Mike, did you catch the debate?
I caught the tail end of the debate. I caught maybe like a half hour of the open discussion. And Ken Hovind didn't disappoint. So I was like, I wanted to join the after show so I could talk about the open discussion.
All right, perfect. So then we got Ken Hovind's debate, and if I wasn't blown away by Greg's opening, Ken Hovind, it was worse than usual. He fell into the trap and wasted a whole bunch of times talking about vaccines.
Oh, really? What does he think of? I mean, he's a denier, I'm guessing, or some kind of they're not real.
Yes, because Greg made the argument that some of the more extreme conspiracy-minded people use some of Kent's arguments to argue against vaccines, and vaccines are a direct product of our understanding of evolution. That was Greg's argument. And Kent just like absolutely flip his lid on the fact that he said no, but I wouldn't recommend people get vaccines. It's a personal choice, blah, 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 and then went all full anti-vaxxer, like no, but it's about nutrition and vitamins. And Dragon Sword pointed out, yeah, he also mentioned chemtrails and absolutely lost in the sauce, like completely. It was wild. But it has to be one of the worst openings I've seen Kent do like ever. I remember when he debated Grayson, who made a comeback today. If you haven't subscribed, Grayson Hawk, friend of the channel, he went to Dinosaur Adventureland, got the whole tour, and debated Kent in his little cult house. It's a pretty good video. Actually, I think it's a series, if I remember correctly. But yeah, Kent used a bunch of time from his opening talking about vaccines, and then didn't really go into a lot of the things that he regularly says. That came a little bit later in the open discussion. But a complete waste of an opening by Kent, in my opinion. So yeah, it was quite wild. So
Kent,
yes.
did he bang with his little hammer?
Not today.
I didn't see it.
Not today.
Oh, we didn't whack an atheist or whatever he calls it.
Did he pull out the SpongeBob? Because I know he did mention SpongeBob in Imagination Land.
No, he didn't do much of those of the antics. And Iron Horse was in the chat. Matthew Hakim was in the chat. So
nice.
For everyone's favorite section.
Oh boy.
Dumbest comment of the debate. There you go. Hold on, because oh my, today is going to be rough. Isa, how you doing?
I'm good.
We'll give you a turn to talk about the openings if you want, but we are going to the dumbest comment of the debate, and the competition today was fierce. Yes. All right. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Of course, the all-star of this section, Matthew Hakim. Evolution is DNA from rocks. Where did the first rocks come from? Oh my God. Look who found us. Hey! Hi! How you doing? Blessed be he. Long time you haven't been derping out in our chat. We missed you. Max, are you still an atheist? Yep. Until you can prove God exists, I'd probably still be an atheist. Hope you are well. I am fan-freaking-tastic. Hope you are doing well too. Dr. Hovind won this debate. Okay. Sure. The Midnight Grower, when it comes to the spiritual health, he's the man. Okay. Iron Horse, dinosaur bones are the cover story for actual giant bones.
Oh
man. Who knew?
Oh no.
Iron Horse,
Ah.
my mutations only make my race better and stronger. I'm more likely to reproduce healthy offspring that carry my mutations. A little bit of racist undertones there. We know
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a bit of a fan of the mustache man. So I think Iron Horse just got himself disqualified from this section. Standing
man.
for truth, Donnie. Dr. Greg should be writing up some rebuttals to these first 4 stages. Show us, Dr. Greg, where did time, space, and matter come from? What banged? Why did it bang? Where did energy come from? I thought it was an evolution debate, Donnie, not a cosmological debate, but okay.
Right. Yeah. He's a biologist, not an astronomer.
Yeah.
A lot of
All right.
interested in banging is what I noticed there. I don't know. That sounded questionable.
Yes. Iron Horse disqualified, so screw that. Matthew Hakim, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Oh, no.
Oh boy.
The theory of evolution is racist and it inspired the eugenics movement.
Wow.
No, I don't think so.
Bold statement.
Oh, there, another of the heavy hitters of this section. The creation of the world began around 12,000 years ago. God created man around 7,000 years ago. The genealogy from Adam and Eve to today is just over 6,000 years. I don't know how he can make the equivalence that it's 1,000 years to God, like the 7 days. Why would it be 1,000 and not 1 million or 1 billion or so? It's a weird arbitrary distinction. Iron Horse was disqualified. Each day of creation took 1,000 years, which is 1 day in God's eyes. Like, why?
Super cool story, bro.
Yeah.
How do you substantiate that though?
Matthew Hakim, it's so funny. Can I evolve into a banana?
Oh my God. They
no.
just regurgitate the same scripts over and over again. No, you cannot evolve into a banana. You are an osteichthyon, sarcopterygian, tetraprodal primate, a haplorhine, semiform, catarrhine, humanoid. So in order for you to evolve into a banana, you would have to unevolve back into a freaking protist and take a completely different evolutionary path. Modern organisms don't evolve into other modern organisms. Please stop using this fucking dumb shit argument. It's so stupid.
Holy, I
Welcome,
love
Austin
that.
Sims. I have something special for you here. Iron Horse is qualified, but he derped out so hard. Water always seeks its level, so does stupidity. He knows about that. Bacteria evolved into a giraffe. Yes. The Nobel Prize nailed it. Okay. Zootopia. Evolution is Scope City for those of you with daddy issues. Okay.
Projecting. God is the ultimate neglectful father. You guys are the ones with the daddy issues.
Yeah.
East Dreamer said God created a mature universe. And this is a weird argument because that would mean that God is like actively deceiving us, creating
100%.
an old universe, creating a young universe that appears to be old. I don't know if you want to make that argument really.
There are lakes that have hundreds of thousands of seasonal varve depositions at the bottom of them. Mm-hmm. You're telling me God went around with his divine pipette putting those layers into the lake? Why? Just to fool people who actually investigate reality so that only people who blindly believe in some ancient anthology of contemporaneous myths get the truth? What a bizarre behavior for your deity to engage in. It's so silly.
It's weird. It's a weird argument. I absolutely grant you that. C09876, Greg is a scoffer and looks pathetic. Okay. Kent Hovind, or actually Kent Hovind's producer, was commenting in the chat. James catching strays. Oh,
wow.
Kevin, how much do you charge? Tell me. Kevin says that I have to pay him to come on stage. He's super scared because he lost a debate to me. So now he's trembling in his chair. Jim Smith, Kent is such a Chad. Okay. Evolution, like gravity, a great theory, but not real. Oh, and then I thought this one was you, but this message didn't get read, but I kind of liked it. And I have access to like the super chat screen on there. Hey, Dr. Hovind, I just wanted to say you're a huge inspiration to me, and I hope to follow your footsteps and one day become a great spouse hitting tax cheat just like you. Bravo.
Yeah,
Bravo.
I hope to also someday be responsible for the drowning of a small child due to my own negligence, and that I never apologize for.
way.
And I say, "Oh, the rest of the family had a great time." Like, yeah.
Whoa.
Marion Graham Bruheim, the scientific method came out of the Bible, genius. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, my favorite part of science class is when we read the Bible.
Yes. Oh, Kevin, it's okay. I charge $510, so you pay me $10 and you can come on. I mean, that's Kevin. You're just this is the coward's deflection, right? If you say pay me, Kevin, you don't have an audience, you don't have an argument, you have less than nothing. So, no one should pay you anything ever. Matthew Hakim, biblical cosmology is flat Earth, Bible is true. I don't think they read this super chat, but it would be absolutely amazing to watch Ken Hovind go up against a flat earther. Like, I've been waiting for that debate for so long, and it's never happened. Matthew Hakim, this was the final one. Right after the after show, I checked on the MDD, and Matthew Hakim said this: Matthew versus Professor Dave. So, vote. Of course, my vote goes to Matthew Hakim. Dr. J?
Oh, whoever, let's see, the one that was, what is the one I laughed at and commented at that I liked so much?
I think it was Iron Horse one.
I think it was too.
But Iron Horse got himself disqualified.
Yeah, well, I've got to go with my boy Matthew Hakim. Then I think, he's just
the one, the only.
He's hard to beat.
He's the king of the derplings. Mike.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hakim. He's there's just no beating him.
No, he's always the best. Isa.
Yes, I'm gonna have to say it's not a derp one, but I like that one that you posted, the $10 one. I think that was my favorite one.
All right.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, this one was quite funny.
It was so good.
Austin.
What are we voting on? King of the Derpling?
Dumbest comment of the debate.
Oh gosh, it's hard to pick. I'm probably gonna go with the flat Earth one because flat Earth is just so unbelievably stupid. Like, the only thing I can think of that's dumber than flat Earth is like literal piss drinkers. Yeah. Like people who drink their own pee because they have an ancient health secret.
There's a huge overlap in the flat Earth and the pee drinkers. So, Matthew Hakim, oh my God, give me just a second. I wasn't ready.
It's my best friend, man.
Dude, he's so cool.
That's the dumbest comment of the debate. You said it with a smile like it sounded so great. Round and round you talk, but you don't say straight. That's the dumbest comment of the debate.
Woo! The only 10-time winner of the dumbest comment of the debate award. Holy cow, Matthew has decimated every other derpling on the globe. Matthew.
Yay!
Wow.
I'm going to have to give Matthew an actual trophy for 2026 because at this rate, if he keeps it up, he's going to make it to 100 and we're going to have to throw him a party. That is just absolutely amazing, Matthew. You are just the best. All right. Welcome, the Bearded Doctor. Since we have a bunch of friends coming up, let's go back into the openings and we'll do a quick round. Isa, would you like to give us your thoughts on the openings? Just do
Wow.
both together if you want.
Well, I love Dr. Ken Hovind. It's spectacular. I'm gonna whack an atheist. He is just my favorite. Just every
Just
time
want
when
to
he
point
talks
out,
out.
not a doctor.
Yes.
Well, I'm talking about doctor according to him. So I think he has a paper mill doctorate. But
Yes.
Yes.
I'll grant it. He has a paper mill doctorate. So Dr. Ken Hovind, he's just lovely to hear everything he has to say. You come from Iraq. You come from Iraq. You come from a banana. You're coming from a banana. What's wrong with these atheists? It's a religion. Everything they believe in is a religion.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
when did Ken Hovind get in here?
Dogs produce dogs. Dogs don't produce cats. They
Mhm.
don't. I've never seen a dog give birth to a cat.
Microevolution versus your macroevolution. This is not, the Bible is literally true. I have been teaching math and science for 14 years in school. I was like, this guy is just, he's magnificent. I mean, wow, he needs like a sitcom just to make a show about him just talking. I mean, him just, but we need, like, it needs to be more professional than whatever his studio is. Just have him talking, and I'm like, it's, oh my gosh, and have a laugh track. This guy, he's spectacular. He's spectacular. Obviously, Dr. Newkirk, he's talking about science and public health and,
Blah, blah, blah,
like
blah.
real stuff that exists, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, that actually exists in the world.
All that
But,
boring facts and evidence.
yeah, very, very boring. But I mean, these are the, he presented the facts there. But my gosh, again, magnificent. A masterclass of entertainment. We must
Yeah.
have him he just needs to talk. He needs to, Trevor Noah, Jon Stewart, he needs to have his own show where he just sits there and just says whatever comes to his
Like
mind.
stand up.
Yeah, like a talk show, but where he's just talking, you bring all the creationist guests on. Oh my gosh, it is comedy gold, and he needs a platform to just keep talking.
I mean, he had a YouTube but kept getting banned.
Yeah, I know, he shouldn't be banned. We just need to put comedy underneath. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, there needs to be a highlight,
like satire in the description.
So he does have a lot of VHS tapes that I watched all of when I was a kid. And so if you feel like you need a good long laugh, you can, try to resurrect those out. I don't know if you've seen that.
I totally will. I would love to.
I can't recommend it.
He is a complete, that is my bestie right there. I just love the content that this man is preaching. It's spectacular. I mean, it's like, a dog and a dog, they make a dog. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is spectacular science. I'm like, my mind is blown. Like that meme where the guy goes,
yeah.
That's what I feel when I listen to this man talk. Like, it's beyond belief, and I can't believe that more people have not heard this. And he said, "I'm a science teacher." He said, "I'm a science."
Yeah, he is not a science teacher.
School?
He was never an algebra teacher. Those are straight up lies.
I'm sure he has he did all the praxis. He has all the certifications in teaching. I'm sure he was teaching at like a legitimate high school. I'm sure he did all of that. I believe it. This guy is top tier. That's when I heard the opening, I'm like, wow, they need to bring this guy on Piers Morgan. He needs to talk more. I'm just like, I want to hear this man talk more.
You're breaking me, dude.
Oh, boy. I just had to say it was lovely. That's my commentary on it.
You're killing me.
Was lovely.
Bearded Doctor, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Give us your thoughts on the openings, please.
Well, what can I say? Ken Hovind is a genius. The man is, he stands head and shoulders above all other theologians in the world. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it opposite day now?
Apparently. And here's the deal. You know me. I'm a Christian. I'm a firm believer. There's not much more that irritates me than listening to Ken Hovind speak. Just because he does such a massive disservice to the Christian faith and to science as a whole. I just feel like that because his complete misunderstanding and miscalculations, misconstruing everything that he does, it just baffles me that so many people hold him in such high regards. And as much as I know that, here's what I will say: his heart, clearly, he firmly believes what he believes, and that's almost what's a little bit scarier, is that he is using a firmly held belief system as opposed to evidence. And that's the reality of what is just so, it's so dangerous in what he does. And I feel like that he's done such a great disservice to Christianity and to the desire for believers to study science. The reality is there are so many people who are solid, intellectual Christians that, if they were willing to study science, could potentially make some great contributions to science and to faith. And I think that when you put those two camps into battling one another, I think that you're doing a great disservice, because I do believe that they are not mutually exclusive. I believe that you can truly be a believer and also be a scientist. Look at Francis Collins. When as much as they talked about human genome, he was the one that was the head of the Human Genome Project and is a firm Christian. So it just bothersome to me that he continues to get platformed. Similar to like Nadir, who continues to get platformed.
The best debater in the... No, hold on.
Hey, you be nice to Nadir.
No.
You be nice to Nadir.
The self-proclaimed MDD king has never lost a debate in his life. No, sorry, yes. I had to go finish up. I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you, Max. Thank you.
The bearded doctor is absolutely right. There are people alive today who had the potential to become scientists at one point in their life, and they are not scientists because Kent Hovind or somebody like him hid reality from them and then trained them not to think so they wouldn't find out. And so he is a net negative on the human existence. He has taken opportunities away from people. He has worsened their lives, and it's just truly a tragedy.
Sorry, finish up. I'm so sorry we cut you off, but we had to. Nadir is top tier here. We love him.
No, you're totally fine. I knew I was treading trepidatious waters by invoking the name of Nadir. Peace be upon him.
Peace be upon him.
But no, anyways. I would love to see this debate redone with someone from an older creationist camp. Someone from Biologos, or someone from even Reasons to Believe, like a Hugh Ross, who actually believe, or Fuz Rama, who is now headed it up, who is an actual molecular biologist and a Christian. To have them have that conversation, I think would be really interesting, to have those two belief systems interact with one another. So
we never see that, right? Like a Christian that accepts evolution versus a Christian that doesn't. When you think about it, there's no reason why God couldn't have created evolution as part of the mechanism just so he wouldn't have to, be continuously creating new stuff. Like, it actually makes sense when you think about it that way. I don't know why they don't like that.
That's what Augustine thought. Augustine said point blank, there are those who believe that only the world is made by God and everything else is made by the world, but still by and according to his divine ordination. And Augustine said that long before Darwin or Wallace were even a twinkle in their father's eye. And the reason he said that was because it was already becoming obvious by then that the earth wasn't young. You know, they can look at things like mountains and see how long those take to form. Islands, those take a long time to form. They had already started to figure out that the biblical genealogies that Usher cited as his evidence that the earth was young were inaccurate. And so they had already started to formulate these ideas. Kent just ignores all that. He
did say
that
got brought up today. And he did say that he was smarter than all of those people.
Yes. Yeah, I sent that question in. He said he was smarter than all of them. And he claimed that they don't believe the Bible. Like, some of those people are literal saints. You know, Aquinas is a literal saint. Augustine is a literal saint. Clemens, Didymus, Justin Martyr. Those are all literal saints. And he has to argue that saints don't believe the Bible. Who the fuck are you, Kent Hovind, to tell Saint Augustine that he doesn't believe the Bible? Are you kidding me?
That's not surprising, though. Protestants and Catholics were killing each other not that long ago. I mean,
true.
I don't think him knocking on Catholics is too hard for him.
Well, but and Kent kept bringing up the whole, the earth was this hot and molten wall of rock. Well, yeah. Genesis 1:2 says the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the surface of the deep. That fits the reality. I mean, reality says if you look at it, and I don't want to get too distracted on the topic, but the word yom, the word day, can be either a 24-hour time period or it can be in a time frame. And if you look at the Genesis narrative from a time frame perspective, or as from a day age perspective, as opposed to it being a single 24-hour day, then the 6 days of creation, honestly, for when it was written, is more accurate than any other book of antiquity when it comes to the actual, not only order, but than other things when it comes to what we see in the fossil record, what we see in the scientific record. There's some discussion back and forth on the time frame when the sun came into existence versus it being a whatever light. But the reality is there aren't really many other documents of that time frame, at least not religious ones of that time frame, that had a origins of the universe model, for lack of a better term, that would fit in this capacity. Anyways.
I think that would fit more because you can't have days without the sun. That's a little bit of a problem.
Ken has no ability to parse out literature or statements like that. Like he needs everything to be childishly literal. The last time I debated him, he kept saying that you think you come from a rock line. And I pointed out, if my mom and dad were at a concert and, Lynyrd Skynyrd was putting on a real good rock and it got my mom and dad kind of excited, maybe I did come from a rock in both a literal and figurative sense. He has no ability to think about things on that level. It has to be childishly literal for him.
Kevin Bacon, this is the reason why I'm telling you to let Kevin Bacon derp out, because we would miss stuff like this. Says, you people believe that squeezing oranges can produce bacon and giraffes. I'm only here to throw shade and remind Max of his humiliating loss to me. I'll tell you a summary of my debate with him. I presented my default flat earth presentation, and all Kevin did for like 45 minutes was say water is flat. Water is flat. He's an Oakley fan that has less than an argument, and he thinks that he won the debate.
I'm sorry, I have
Kevin, do you actually think squeezing oranges producing bacon and giraffes is what evolution claims? You don't even know what evolution is.
A great breakfast. You got orange juice and bacon? Are you kidding? If we could get bacon out of orange juice, that'd be fantastic.
I've never eaten giraffe, though. I wonder if that's good.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I have a question.
My
question is, why is a famous Philadelphian debating Max? Like, this is just blowing my mind here right now.
He's in between movies.
He was in Tremors, Hollow Man. Like, what's going on here?
Kevin Bacon is tied to every virtually every single actor. Was it by 7 degrees?
Yes.
I did a
I
study.
Really, yeah.
When I was in high
I
school,
think isn't it six degrees of Kevin Bacon? Isn't that?
I did a study when I was in high school for our school newspaper that you can actually tie every food to bacon within 6 degrees. And actually, it's much less than that. Pretty much you can tie anything, even human, even cannibalism, you can tie with.
Well, bacon is haram though, so I would watch out for that. All right.
Well, vegetarian bacon's not. Vegetarian bacon's not. Turkey bacon's not.
It's also
Yeah, turkey.
It's also not bacon.
Yeah, that's true.
Austin,
Well, they call it bacon, but
thoughts on the openings, and then we'll go into the open discussion portion. Because,
I actually
there's a lot
didn't
there.
see the opening, but if you've seen one Kent Hovind debate, you've seen them all. So I can probably anticipate what the opening was. Hovind threw out his typical Hovindism. A cat never gives birth to a dog. You never seen a bacteria transform into a non-bacteria. And I'm imagining Dr. Greg gave facts and evidence-based opening. He maybe even had a slideshow that he could present.
He didn't.
He didn't have any slideshow. Okay. But I'm imagining, it was the typical Kent Hovind opening. And Kevin Bacon, we've already responded to this once, but let's just reiterate again. An orange can't evolve into a giraffe or a pig. That's not the way evolution works. An orange is a plant in the citrus family. And in order for an orange to be a giraffe, it would have to unevolve through all of the stages of its ancestry back into a protist. And then that protist would have to take a completely different evolutionary path. Your question is stupid. It's an idiotic question. It just demonstrates that you don't understand what evolution is. So hopefully that addresses that. Well, this is like the third time I've told you this.
No, nothing. Kevin Bacon just refused. He's a flat earther also. So, I mean, you know how that thing goes.
I'm sorry, sir. Don't you know that evolution is satanic? It's straight from the devil. It's from the devil's mouth. Obviously, all the Christians are not going to accept this.
Yeah. Evolution is a pagan religion, and Christianity definitely didn't evolve from paganism itself. So, don't worry about that.
Now, what happens is, for example, when Kent brought up the citations from, I think it was National Geographic or NASA or whatever, about the Earth being a rock, blah, 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 it's a category error because that refers to the origin of the planet. And then you get water. You start getting the first features on the planet, right? And you get water, you get rain, and so on. And then comes life. There's millions of years between that. And then what I never see anyone push against is that when he says you never see a dog turn into something else. He's like, well, we know that wolves turned into dogs, right? And if you just keep going, then what is the impediment for that change to happen? And I was watching, I think it was Professor Dave. He said a leaky faucet can fill a bucket, but it can't fill a swimming pool. And it's like, well, give it just more time, and it will eventually fill up the swimming pool. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, Kent wants his interlocutors to explain 273 plus fields of science and academia to him before he'll be satisfied. And he fundamentally does not understand what evolution is. Once once a lineage has evolved to a certain point, all of its descendants will still fit in all the clades its ancestor fit in. They'll just fit into a more specific niche inside that clade. So cetaceans are still in a clade. Whales, dolphins are still in a clade inside of the quadrupedal, ungulate, even-toed land mammal clade. They're still in that clade. They're still gnathostomes. They still have jaws. They're still craniate. They still have skulls. They're still olfactorans. They still have a nasal cavity. They have all of those features, but they also have a more specific feature of being ocean mammals. And that is just how evolution works. You don't evolve outside of your clades. You evolve into a more specific nested category within your clades. And so when Kent says that he wants to see a dog evolve into a cat, that's not how it works. Don't ever ask him about a Chihuahua, though, and the pre-selective barriers to reproductive success between a Chihuahua and virtually every other organism, every other canine that's larger than a corgi, you know? Like, he truly does not understand what he's talking about.
Give me 1 second here. Let me move you there. So I like to keep the stage very neatly in order. But check this out. Rollouse Robert says, open to all panelists. One thing I agree with you guys is most debaters are bad, but I can take on any of you to debate against evolution. Who is interested? You know that there's a link right there that you could click right now and be here in no time. So, I mean, you can come and tell us how we're all wrong. And
do me a favor, define evolution first.
The link will work on a cell phone, yes. All right.
Before we enter a debate on evolution with you, why don't you define evolution for us? And let's see if you can even define it before you say you're going to debate us.
Austin, I think you have a little bit of a background noise when you speak. It's like, it sounds crunchy for some reason.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sorry. Let me try something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isa back here.
I'm hearing it too. It's pretty.
I was trying to locate it, but yeah, I think it's you. Where everyone else was muted. All right. Open discussion. We got a little bit bogged down. We lost, I don't know, like 10 minutes talking about the whole vaccine thing. Got some anti-vax rhetoric from Ken Hovind. The funny thing is, it's weird to me that people who have been vaccinated as kids now want to peddle this anti-vax nonsense when, like, you are a clear like, you didn't get polio, you didn't get measles because you were vaccinated as a kid, and now it's like, oh, you're rioting against something which you have taken advantage of, and it's just weird. It's just weird to do that.
Do I still sound bad?
No, that is much better. Thank you.
Vaccines are a critical tool that train your immune system to protect your body from pathogens. It's a way of training the memory and B and T cells in your body to produce antiviral product that binds to the molecular geometry of incoming pathogens. You can train your body to do that against a pathogen that's less dangerous than the one you're being vaccinated against. Mm-hmm. It's like training for a fight against a punching bag that makes you more likely to be able to fight successfully against Mike Tyson. And these vaccines have produced a precipitous drop in infant mortality. Prior to the 1900s, 50% of babies would die before reaching the age 2. So if you love dead babies, keep railing against vaccines. It's a brilliant way to produce more dead babies.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, and then he also tied it to like chemtrails. Kent was derping out hard today, really.
He was low on potassium. Remember that. Let's give him a break. He said he was low. He needed a banana nut.
And then he said, "No, I take vitamins." It's like, oh, well, dude, the reason why you have those vitamins in pill form is the same science that gave you the thing that you're arguing against. It's just wild that someone would make that argument.
I want to actually, I can talk a little bit about the vaccines.
Yeah.
I wanted to
open discussion. Yes.
So I want to share a little bit about me. So I had a very close person that I used to help all the time. I've always been a kind of like social worker my entire life, and I've helped a lot of different kinds of people at different routes. So one of these gentleman that I used to help and support was kind of the whole package, except maybe flat Earth. He was kind of open to that, but he was um, very much into every conspiracy. He believed that the Vatican, Israel, and London had like a kind of a global partnership, and there was the globalists and Bohemian Grove. You know, the stuff that Mr. Alex Jones,
Ooh.
was producing and promoting. So he took all of these types of things, and one of the things that he was extremely against was the vaccines. He called it
Mhm.
the jab. He called the vaccine the jab. So he was very anti-jab. I remember during the pandemic, um, you know, he kind of took the position that it's like a pandemic and it's a way for the
Oh
government
my, yes.
to control us, right? So he mocked the idea of wearing masks. He mocked the idea of getting the vaccine. He was like, all of it, it's a lie. It's a duplicitous, and you know, if you get the vaccine, your like DNA gets manipulated. All of this kind of
Right?
stuff, right?
Yes.
So I told him a story. I said, "Sir, you know, my father comes from South Asia, right? And you know, the British imperial rule was pretty awful. It was a pretty terrible situation. But my father was given many, many vaccines. He in the ancient vaccines back in like, I guess you would say in the 30s and 40s, because my dad was much older than me. Um, it burned the arm. It left like burn marks on his arm, right?
Yeah, I
That's
have
how
that one.
it's like because it was like a lot. It was a lot of it
It,
was
it
it,
is like a circle.
yes, it was because it was like a an ancient type of way that they would do vaccinations. That's just the technology of the time. It's not like it wasn't like a simple needle, right? So my father outlived pretty much all of his siblings except one younger sister who was like maybe 20 years younger than him, right? And
Hmm.
she died maybe like a week or two after he had passed away. You know what I'm saying? But he outlived all of his siblings, including much younger siblings than him. And a lot of that has to, like one of my uncles died from smallpox, right? So in
Hmm.
South Asia, you had smallpox, you had cholera, yellow fever, you had a lot of these horrible illnesses that were plaguing the area, right? But because he was vaccinated, he's alive. He was alive, and I was born from that. Do you get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I'm like, when I hear like, oh, these vaccines are fake, I'm like, I wouldn't be around if there were vaccines. Like my uncle died pretty young from smallpox because he wasn't vaccinated. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
like it's bizarre when I hear people saying this, and like I told him that, and he's like, yeah, that's just bull crap, and I'm like, okay, dude, you know. But you know, like we had our clashes like about things like Israel too. Like he was like, Israel is the most evil thing, and I'm like, dude, if you don't like nation states, then that's okay. But you know, you picking on Israel saying it's the worst thing ever, I'm like, do you want to talk about Egypt and Syria? I'm like, we could talk about all these different kinds of places, and we can have a interesting
I
conversation. But
mean,
obviously, you don't, want
like
that.
you don't even have to go that far. Like look at what the Spanish did in America. Like that
It
is
was
just
horrible.
wild. Yeah.
And we don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, we don't want to be honest and talk about all the problems. We just want to talk about some problems. But basically, that was the story. When I heard, I'm like, when you're saying all of this, and I'm like, I don't actually disagree with Mr. Hovind or Dr. Hovind's position. I'm like, fine, you have freedom. You don't want to do it, okay, whatever. I don't, that's the way it is. It's not, you don't necessarily. I don't know if there's necessarily a mandate, but you could say, it's highly encouraged, and there's a reason why. His argument was actually wrong in the open discussion, where because I actually study public health and I study epidemiology. That's a part of my
Yeah.
program, like social work, public health, epidemiology. That's the kind of stuff that I study in school. Um, but he was right when he was saying, oh, if other people aren't vaccinated, you know that's not that won't stop the illness. He doesn't understand how how disease spread. He doesn't understand about immunity. He doesn't understand these different kinds of things. Yes, it will still continue. You know what I mean? Because if someone else happens to not be vaccinated, it can spread. So like he doesn't know about these particular principles clearly when he made that statement. And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem because when people weren't vaccinated, illnesses like polio did reoccur. You know what I mean? Like there's actually instances of that happening. So I'm like, sir, this is not accurate information that you're presenting. I understand where you're coming from. Logically, according to like common sense, you could say that, but that's not how diseases work. They're not based on just like human, human logical kind of framings. It's based on scientific methodological approach. scientific methodological approach doesn't have to go with like, I got my common sense. It's not like that. So it didn't work. It's not grounded. And when he said that, I was like, and he kind of repeated himself. And I want to say one other point about the open discussion.
Yeah, the whole debate.
It backfired on him at one point. He's like, James, moderator, you need to close down the line. Shut it down. Shut it down.
Yes, mute
Shut
his
up.
mic.
Shut it
Like,
down.
Ryan!
Shut it down. Shut up. Shut it down. And then he did it to James. He did actually do it. And James
Yes.
was like, I'm actually talking right now. It's not him. He's actually been quiet. I'm talking. Shut it down. Be quiet.
I got that.
Shut
It's
it
like,
down.
just shut up. Like, it's me. It's James talking, Ken.
Shut
Calm
it down.
down.
Shut it down. Shut up. You've had your
All right.
time. And then he gave a whole monologue, and he just kept going and repeating the same points that we heard before. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
Is this
it's
what you
pretty
want to
good.
share with us? It's like a routine, like, like a comedy act where a person
Yes.
does the same routine every night they do the same routine. That was him. He just had the same routine that he was just saying again. I'm like, we got the routine, bro. Do you have some new information you want to share with us?
Well, he's been doing the same thing for 25 years, so I don't think we'll ever get anything. It's like Donnie. I invited Dan from Creation Myths, and he explained the Y chromosome thing that Donnie goes on and on about. And Dan told me, I've told this to Donnie directly, and he just refuses to acknowledge that there is an answer for his question. The bearded doctor, let's try to keep it short because we have on the top here, he's going to come and school us on how evolution is impossible. So I would like to get to that. So thoughts on the open discussion, bearded doctor?
When it comes to vaccines are not a monolith either. There have been some vaccines that have had decades of study and research. There's also been situations like the Tuskegee study that I don't know if you remember back in the 30s all the way to the 70s when I think there's over 600 impoverished black men were given syphilis and under the guise of a vaccine. And it was a study that was done to study the effects of syphilis on the body. And so these men were unknown to them, were given this, and they were told that they had quote unquote bad blood. And so, there are legitimate situations where the label vaccine has been used and it has caused harm to those. I am not saying that all vaccines are bad or evil, because on the flip side, there have also been fantastic outcomes from people who have taken vaccines, and we have seen eradication of lots of really horrible, horrific things. And the whole conversation reminded me that I needed to take my my vitamins. So, the reality is, I think that that Kent, what he did was, and does this in many cases, he creates this massive, large blanket response to something that is a nuanced question. And so bringing the conversation into vaccines, I think did the whole debate a disservice, because, and I don't even know if it was Kent or Greg that started the discussion on vaccines.
Greg brought it up as a byproduct of our understanding of evolution, and the argument is fair. It was just that Kent focused like completely on that, and it kind of derailed the whole thing. The argument is valid, though, I think.
Yeah. So I think the discuss. I just don't know that this debate was the right platform for that, for a debate to have gone off into the left field like it did in when it came to the discussion of vaccines. I think that there was a lot of interesting back and forth. Yeah, I definitely think that they both talked over each other. I don't think Greg listened to Kent. I don't think Kent listened to Greg. And I think the reality is neither of them were going to change their perspectives, their minds. And the reality says, that's not what online debates are intended for. They're intended for us to be entertained and to hear different perspectives. You are not going to change someone's. Rarely, and let me give I'm not going to give the look at me here giving a blanket statement as I am criticizing Ken of doing that. But the reality is the majority of us are not going to. We come into this debate watching it, and here's our guy, and we believe in our guy's perspective, and that's the enemy, and we don't believe in their perspective. And so all the people that jumped in the comments that were already young Earth creationists were all, Kent stomped him, and all the folks that were in the debate comments that are evolutionists or old Earth creationists or whatever are like, Kent's an idiot. And the reality is, it wouldn't have mattered what either side said. Reality. I think that that it just was it's an entertaining discussion. And I'm interested in hearing some more from Greg. This is the first time I've seen him in a debate. I definitely thought he dressed well, as opposed to Kent, who typically always shows up in the Hawaiian print shirts. As Issa talked about,
elegant, yes. He did a previous debate with Jim Bob on evolution also, and that one was fun.
I don't know. I agree. I think Kent would make for a great sitcom. But as long as he wears that shirt, though, he's got to wear the flashy shirts.
It's
brandy. Right, thank you so much, Austin. Thoughts on the open discussion, and then we'll get to you, Rolaus.
I think somebody pointed it out. Kent has a script. He sticks to that script. He runs that script. Honestly, I think the biggest hurdle is getting him off script and getting him to actually think and put forth some mental effort. I think what really is at issue here is the pathology of the evolution-denying creationist. They are trained by their pulpit that it's impossible for evidence in the universe to be in conflict with the Bible. The Bible's always correct, and then they're given little slivers of evidence to cement this schema in their mind. They're told, oh, the cell is so complex, it could never just pop into existence, and that's what evolutionists actually think. And that's not what we think at all. Evolutionist isn't a thing. And basically what they're being trained to do is they're being trained to deny, distort, discard, or ignore evidence. They ignore over 90% of the relevant data in order to maintain their belief that it's impossible that the Bible could possibly be wrong. And the lay creationist is not likely to admit this when they're talking to somebody who isn't a creationist, but they'll admit it in their own echo chambers. And more importantly, the organizations from whom they receive their arguments, organizations like Answers in Genesis, Creationist Ministries International, Institution of Creation Research, they all have these statement of faith agreements that say point blank, it's impossible for evidence in the world to be in conflict with the Bible. So basically they're training people to think that anytime they see evidence that indicates that there is a conflict between reality and their interpretation of the Bible, well, there must be something wrong. Those people are misinterpreting. The evidence is made up. They've been brainwashed by their communistic, atheistic professors. Anything to avoid looking at the reality, which is that we're looking at a larger body of facts than them, and with a vastly superior epistemic method, a method that doesn't throw out the most likely explanation of all those facts because it contradicts a specific interpretation of a religious scripture. We look at reality, we allow our filter to point in whatever direction the evidence calls for it to, and we don't even ask what that means for some religion's scripture. And that is the superior epistemic method. But they can't accept that, so they have to make up a conspiracy theory. And Greg was pointing it out. This guy is just spewing conspiracy theories left and right. He has to invent a conspiracy, and then he has to invent a conspiracy to preserve that conspiracy. And he never stops and thinks for a second how these conspiracies would actually work. When do they inculcate new members into the conspiracy? Is it when you get your bachelor's in biology? When you get your master's or your PhD, they show up and they say, by the way, we're the Illuminati. You believe in evolution now. They don't think about that.
Booty call. Who's getting booty calls at this time of the hour?
Doctorate. That's when I got the call for the indoctrination. It's doctoral. It's doctoral.
All right. Okay. How do I pronounce that? Rolaus?
Just Robert is fine.
Okay.
What, hello?
So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, you were saying that you can debunk evolution.
I never made the claim that I could debunk evolution. I said I could face an evolutionist with a beat. Now I promised a definition the first thing when I came on. So I will say that the concept, that the theory of evolution is small changes, which is microevolution, accumulating into large changes that result in the diversity of that tree of life.
Yeah, that is a very layman. It's the change in allele frequency over time.
I would say better than a lot I've heard, though, Max. You gotta admit
True,
that,
yeah,
right?
but
We've heard way worse, I would argue. So
that's true.
I'm not a scientist either, but I wouldn't quibble with that myself. But maybe you would.
Right.
It puts him in the difficult position of now you have to define macroevolution.
The accumulation of small changes.
That's microevolution.
No, micro is the small changes. Macro is the accumulation of them that transcends those classifications. The phylum, the genus.
Are you aware of like the evidence for evolution?
That I would say that's what I have come here to find out for myself from you guys.
Oh, okay.
Because when Ken Hovind asked for, when he asked for an example of where a dog breeds a non-dog or a cat breeds a non-cat, that's what I'd like to see. Where do you have the evidence that small changes can result from a dog producing a proto-dog to producing another proto-dog to then having a non-dog?
Well, dogs come from wolves.
No, they actually, if you do a quick Google search, you'll find that they now have a common ancestor, which I would say is imaginary, just like all common ancestors are.
But the central, if you'll excuse me for intervening, the central problem you're having is that you're misstating the claim of evolution. Evolution at no point claims that a dog will evolve into a non-dog. That's absolutely not what evolution claims.
Then explain the diversity
you will
of the tree of
always
life.
belong. You will always belong to the clade you started out in. You will become. You may become something that looks very different from a dog, but you're still descended from a dog. So you're never going to evolve. I beg your pardon?
You're admitting that there's limitations that Ken Hovind told us about.
No, I'm not admitting.
We're correcting your misapprehension, sir.
Okay, so how do you explain
a dog
the diversity?
is a biotic, archaean, eukaryotic, unicont, opisticont, deuterostomic, gnathostome, craniate, olfactorin, mammalian, quadrupedal, whatever population its descendants becomes, it'll be all those things. It might just be something even more specialized.
Yep.
So you're asking.
You guys are.
No, sorry. I started talking, and so I'll continue talking. You asked for an example of something, a dog evolving to be not a dog. That is not what evolution claims can happen. So you are asking as proof of evolution something that evolution does not claim. You are being nonsensical.
You could falsify evolution really easily if you can find a primate that's not also a craniate. If you can find a primate that's not also an olfactorin. If you can find a primate that doesn't have all of the traits from previous clades that built it into a primate. The evidence of evolution, the change in kind, is your own morphology. You had ancestors that weren't gnathostomes, that didn't have jaws. All right? That is an example of macroevolution. Macroevolution doesn't say something that has a jaw will evolve into something that doesn't have a jaw at some point. It might, but it'll still have gnathostome genetics in its genome because that's what its ancestry came from. And we can use molecular biology to enforce those cladistics, to enforce those taxonomic classifications and categorizations. We built taxonomy on on heuristic morphology and biogeographical species distributions. We looked at where species were, and we looked at what features we had, and we grouped them into families based on that. Then we discovered DNA and molecular biology, and we started making molecular phylogenetic comparisons. And wouldn't you know it, molecular phylogeny almost perfectly fit the heuristic morphology and biogeographical species distribution based taxonomies we had. And in the few instances where it didn't, it showed us what the more accurate answer was. Like there are species of shrews and moles that aren't actually shrews and moles. They belong in a different clade called Afrotheria, which we discovered through molecular phylogeny. So when you have these different lines of evidence that are all fitting each other, matching each other, and supporting the same conclusion, trying to deny that conclusion requires the invention of conspiracy theories. It requires rejecting the relevant data. And at that point, your argument is no longer serious.
1 second, Dr. J wants to leave, so he will give him a moment here. But we have the king of the Derplings, Matthew Hakim. Congratulations, Matthew. You're the only 10-time winner of the dumbest comment of the debate. Claps to you, sir. That is a truly astonishing accomplishment. Dr. J, go ahead.
Yes, I do need to get going. Thanks, Max. Just wanted to make a comment. It was said a long time ago about how people like Ken Ham make it so people don't want to be scientists. So I grew up watching Ken Ham. I grew up watching all the VHS videos. I knew all his stuff. I was a straight A student. I was salutatorian in my high school class. I was extremely good at school. And I recently had a friend of mine whose son is going to college to be a physicist. And I remember thinking when I heard him say that, like, I wish I felt like I had that option when I graduated from high school. Like, that was not on the table for me because scientists were bad. Like, that's how it was. I was going to be going in the lion's den because the scientists were bad. I'm not saying I would have chosen that per se, or that my life's been terrible or anything. I don't want to be a whiner, but like, it is 100% true that the Kent Hovind style of thing takes away that from your options. It took it away from me for sure. And it's just unfortunate. Like I said, my life's fine. I'm not complaining, but it is a shame that those options do get taken off the table.
All right.
I get concerned questions from believers all the time, Dr. J, asking me, if I go into science, am I going to have to give up my belief in God and stuff like that? And it's really sad.
All right, great.
No, you don't have to give up your belief in God. You know, I know I'm a professor of philosophy at a secular college, and I know a lot of people in the higher education field in philosophy and science that are firm believers and are also scientists, philosophers that not everybody has gone into a field of theology, and they're happy in their life, so they are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, the last biology course I took was taught by a Muslim woman. The last biology lab I was in, the lab teacher was a Catholic deacon. And of course he accepts evolution because he's a biologist. So it is bizarre.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive. It's like what happens with the flat earthers. They latch on to their belief above reality. And they think that if reality contradicts their belief, that there's no way to parse that. But it's like, dude, a lot of people do that. There are Christian Glovers. There are Christians that accept evolution. It's not mutually exclusive, and it doesn't have to be.
We Magisteria, Stephen Jay Gould said, coined back in '97.
We have there. Max is scared of Alpha Man. There is no flat earther. There is an Alpha Man. Like, what are you talking about? We have you and Matthew Hakim derping out in the chat.
I
None of you
read
are
that
alphas.
as like you're the alpha stage of men, which means you're full of bugs and you're really you've got lots of code problems and you haven't even reached the beta stage of development yet. So
Oh,
I wish
that's a
you luck with
nice
getting through that.
that's a nice counter to that. All right, I have some stuff prepared here. For Robert, I have some papers about human evolution because that's the one thing that you say for sure doesn't happen. And I have actually two papers. I have this one, which is about the water nomads that are being like literally born with larger spleens, larger lungs because they dive for fishing and they live in the water a lot. So they are getting genetic modifications that just make them be born with those characteristics. And they've been breath holding for thousands of years. So their spleens and their lungs become adapted to that environment. And then these other people, the tree climbing pygmies, they get morphological changes on their foot and their calf muscles that allow them to climb more effectively. So if you continue getting these types of changes, what is the impossibility of this type of change becoming a new species with enough time?
Yeah, they're called the Bajau Islander people, and you can see very easily how this occurs. If you don't have a good spleen, if you don't have big, large lungs, you don't get enough food, so you don't survive to reproductive age to pass on those non-diving genetics. If you do have good diving genetics, you survive, you get food, and you create offspring. So each time a new generation is formed, the fittest of the previous generation are selected by nature just being difficult to survive in, and they become the basis of the next generation. And as a result, you get changes in allele concentrations that produces novel forms, and over really, really long periods of time, even ultimately completely different body plans that are only superficially similar, but they look completely different, like how a whale looks very different from a modern even-toed quadrupedal land mammal.
But they still have like the leg bones and like the actual feet
Yes,
are
the
the tail.
pentadactyl forelimb, yes.
All right, so I was asking Robert, hold on, let's he said he has a delay, which I mean, I don't know why. This works flawlessly for everyone else, but okay. Go ahead. Hello? Check. Is he frozen? I can hear you, but your mic is really bad now.
He lost the genetic information that allows him to respond.
Oh, if I start lifting again, my muscles get big. It's not evolution. Dumbass. We're talking about genetic change. Oh, Matthew, this is not about muscles. The muscles, they get genes for that. It's written on the genetic code that they have elongated muscles. This is not about mechanistical changes. This is about genetical changes, dummy. Yeah, I literally just explained it to you, Matthew.
There's a similar result recently published for populations of humans from the Andes and from Tibet.
I have that one somewhere. Yep.
So I think one of the things that would, for if I can steelman this, or from a younger perspective, they would ask in response to that, what is they would say this appears to be more adaptation versus evolution, and so how would you respond to that?
Yeah, adaptation is evolution. It's a distinction. Yeah. So sorry, Tony, go.
Sorry, I would. there are two elements here. If I were arguing against a young Earth creationist, I would actually attack via geochronology. I wouldn't use evolution to attack young Earth creationism.
True.
But in this, in a defense of evolution, that this is just sort of some specialization, some adaptation. Yes, in each generation, you get an infinitesimal adaptation that over time accumulates and results in spectacularly different, in descendants being spectacularly different from their forebears. That's the entire hypothesis of evolution, and that we see the small steps occurring in real time, or that we can identify these genetic changes. This is predicted under the theory of evolution, and it's what we see. This is validation of our hypothesis. Now, again, I would also clarify, it's not proof of our hypothesis. Science isn't in the business of trying to prove things, but it does substantiate and support our hypothesis.
Oh my God,
Robert.
Matthew, I just explained to you that mechanistical changes have nothing to do with your genetic code. We're talking about...
You could explain things till you blew in the face to Matthew. He's just not going to understand.
Yeah.
Robert, are you a young earther? Robert?
Oh my, like so much derp. Robert, unmute yourself. I don't know if you're speaking, but you're muted from like the app. And you muted yourself, so I can't unmute you. There we go.
Are you a young earther, Robert?
I guess he's not having problems with the microphone.
I'm on the edge of my seat here. I really want to know if this guy's a young earther.
Yeah, and also, what is the shape of the Earth? No, I guess he can't figure out. He said, I was on a Bluetooth mic and headphones, switched to USB wired. Can I get a back check? It's not.
So what I would suggest, Rob, is that you drop out of StreamYard and rejoin.
And come back, yeah. Refresh
because
the page.
You get to choose which microphone is input when you log on. So changing it while you're in StreamYard is generally a bad idea. So just drop out and then rejoin, and you should be able to check your microphone again.
I thought I had that paper that you were citing about the people in Tibet and the people in the Andes, but I don't. I will remember to find it. But I have the tree climbing people and the Bahau, which is a great example of human evolution happening today that we can measure and we can track, and we have like the active genetic material of the people to analyze, and we are doing it on like a population level, not just like an individual. So yeah, I kind of like that. Alan says old Earth creation is nonsense. Oh, that's adorable.
I would suggest that actually old Earth creation is a reasonably, how is it nonsense?
Yeah,
as long as it's not an
my feelings.
evolution denying old Earth creationist. There are old Earth creationists that don't deny evolution. That's
Absolutely.
practically theistic evolution.
You
But
don't even.
there are old Earth creationists that do deny evolution, and those are nonsensical.
Yeah, I mean, this is the point. I'm all for people pursuing their faith and having faith in their preferred religion, as long as it doesn't result in a cognitive bias that damages their ability to engage with reality. An old Earth creationist doesn't need to reject abiogenesis, doesn't need to reject the Big Bang, doesn't need to reject evolution. They don't need to reject any scientific hypotheses. They just need to say, well, God created the universe and it led to where we are now. how he chose to do that could have been entirely naturalistic. It doesn't change who God is or human relationship to God or anything of that sort. So I don't see what the problem is particularly, but.
I love this. We didn't evolve. We were created in perfect form. Oh yeah, so perfect that I need these fucking things because
perfect form. Okay, so why is it that going out in the sun can kill you?
Why are you a bipedal organism with a quadruped's vertebral column?
Why do you have eyes that have blind spots? Why do your knees suck so badly? Why is our windpipe and our food intake?
That's a good one.
Why are they next to one another? Why does the recurrent laryngeal nerve go from our brain down around our heart and then back up into the throat? This is the nerve that controls our swallowing. Why does it go that way in all vertebrates? Giraffes have a nerve goes. Whales have this nerve that goes down around their heart and back. Why? Why is that a perfect design? In what way is that even a mediocre design? It's just crappy design. Sorry, you're back with us, Rob.
Worked so far.
Why are testicles like, why do we have an internal body temperature and then we have testicles outside that make us extremely vulnerable to attacks, and they need to be outside the body because they need less temperature than your body? That is just shitty design. Sorry. Let's try Robert. Let's try the mic again.
I know people that will die if
Yes.
they eat a peanut.
Okay.
Yes, you're back now. You
Okay.
still seem to have a delay, though.
I do. Yeah.
Well,
are you a young earther, Robert? Do you believe
Yes, I
the
am.
Earth is young? Okay, heat
Yes.
problem. You familiar with the heat problem?
Not by the name of it, no. Not by just what you said.
Okay, so the heat problem is this, and this was actually discovered by young Earth creationists. If you take natural processes, things like radiometric decay, limestone lithification, tectonic movement of the continental plates, all of these processes produce heat. And it's a characterizable amount of heat. It's amount of heat that we can calculate using measurements, and we can know that a certain amount of radioactive decay has occurred, a certain amount of tectonic movement has occurred, there's a certain amount of limestone on the planet, and so you can mathematically calculate the amount of heat that would have been produced over the course of all of that development happening. And if you try to release that amount of heat in a young Earth time frame in just 6,000 years, the rate of heat displacement becomes so much that it'll boil all the oceans on the planet, melt the granitic crust of the planet a dozen times over into a superheated plasma hotter than the sun. So this is really strong evidence that that heat wasn't released over 6,000 years, that it was actually released over billions of years, which makes it a rate of heat displacement that's virtually negligible, and it's not catastrophically destructive to the planet. That's the way you actually solve the heat problem. Young Earth creationists have been trying to solve the heat problem for 30 years, and all they have is exotic superfuture physics, which doesn't work because even the most contrived mechanism for heat rejection that they can come up with still only displaces less than 1% of the heat. It's only enough to get the planet down to about the surface of the sun in temperature, which would be lethal to all of the animals on the ark. I don't know what kind of wood gopher wood is, but I doubt it can withstand heats at the surface of the temperature of the sun level. And so the superphysics solution fails. Their next solution is that God is a deceiver God, that he accelerated the nuclear decay. He created an ancient universe with radiometric decay levels already at what they were at. That is also an unsatisfying solution because it turns God into this satanic trickster who's basically using the devil's playbook. And then the last solution, the one that they basically settled on, miracles. God waved his magic wand and he zapped the heat away. And basically, the only thing the rate team figured out was that they do have the heat problem because they need the heat to get the tectonic plates moving at the speeds they need them to move at for young Earth creationism to work. So they do have the problem, and then they can't solve the problem without miracles. So I'm really doubtful you'll be able to solve the heat problem for us tonight.
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't know what it was, it's doubtful.
Yeah,
but
it's a bit, it's a bit
there.
much, but
We have a Christian there who's both who accepts evolution and is also a glober. So get wrecked. Like I don't hate God because I can't hate something that I don't think exists. But we do have a Christian there that accepts both positions that you don't. So I mean,
I was a Christian for 35 years. So yeah, and at no stage did I reject the idea that the Earth was spheroidal. But I will also point out that sort of there are if you like having energy and you like having computers and you like having cars, then you really are relying on our estimate of the age of the Earth being accurate, because we use geochronological techniques all the time in mineral exploration. We use them to work out where mineral-bearing deposits are going to be in relation to geological structures. And mining companies pay millions of dollars to have geochronology done on samples so that they can work out where they should be drilling. Gutsy Gibbon likes to emphasize that this is done in search for oil, but it's actually done in searches for other minerals as well. So you know, the geochronological and geochemical signatures in mineral-bearing formations are essential to how we locate minerals. And young Earth creationists can't do this. They cannot do the analysis. They cannot find the minerals. So the minerals that you rely on in your daily life to build your cars, to build your home, to build your computers, and to power them, they rely on geochronological techniques being accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because these younger. Sorry.
Yes, Robert, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just checking to see if you had frozen again. You were real still for a minute. So.
I agree that a miracle will never be scientifically satisfied. That's a given. As far as God being a deceiver, when God says He made Adam and put him on the earth, how old was Adam? It doesn't say how old he was. So why is he suddenly a deceiver if he creates these processes that are old?
Yeah,
because why would he do that? If he creates a tree, that's fine. If he creates a tree with tree rings inside it that tell us that it's much older, that's a lie. He didn't need to do that.
But he's not telling you that the tree is that old.
If he creates Adam, that's fine. But if he creates Adam with layers inside his bone that are consistent with bone accumulation through time, or if he creates Adam with isotopes in his teeth that give us a history for Adam that is untrue, then he's lying. If he creates Adam with an appendectomy scar, that's a lie because Adam didn't have an appendectomy. So you're right. If he just creates things, that's one thing. But if he creates them in such a way that they look deceptive, like they look like something happened when in fact it didn't happen, that's a deception.
You're also getting into the territory of what I like to call the problem of stupid. It's kind of like the problem of evil, but it's a little different in that you're hypothesizing a deity who created a universe where the only way to get the truth is to ignore everything any human can confirm exists in nature and to just dogmatically, blindly believe in the claims of a pretty clearly human authored book.
Right.
That's a really weird way to do things.
I love this question. Did Adam have an Abel and Eve also? Because they weren't born.
Oh, we would have. There'd be no way of knowing in that capacity.
I mean, I know it's not a question for you. It's for him, though.
But they are depicted. They are depicted in theological art with a belly button. So that is
but I mean
that's a normal human. But there would be no reason for them to have one because they weren't born. They didn't have an umbilical cord.
But I mean, sort of basing an argument on the limited anatomical understanding of and theological understanding of medieval artists is not really a relevant argument. Anyway, Rob, do you want to respond to any of this or what?
But I'd like to go back to the animals afterwards. And my question about the processes of radiometric decay is humans have only been around several thousands of years in a world that you'd say is billions of years old. So let me ask you, has that decay been steady? If so, how do you prove it beyond the observation of humans?
So it's a decent argument, but you can look at the rates of radioactive decay are determined by the strong force, the weak nuclear force. So in order for rates of nuclear decay to have changed, you would require that the weak nuclear force to have changed. And looking around at ancient stars, we don't see any evidence that that is true, because the light coming from those stars is many thousands of years old. So we don't see any evidence from old observations of distant thermonuclear processes that the weak nuclear force is any different there than it is here, than it is now. So that argument doesn't hold. Also, you have other processes by which we can determine ages. So, for instance, there's amino acid racemization. If you've got an amino acid from a living organism, it will have left-handed amino acids inside it. Once the organism's chemical processes stop, then those amino acids will start diverging. You'll get some left-handed and some right-handed. It'll start moving from left-handed amino acids into right-handed amino acids. And the rate at which that occurs is fairly well known. So now you've got a completely different process by which we're adjusting ages, and that gives consistent ages with the radiometric dating. And now you've got to change not only the weak force that applies to atoms, but you've also got to change the way that these amino acids spontaneously change their chirality. You've also got a third process in that the rate at which cosmic rays hit the Earth. When a cosmic ray hits the Earth, hits a rock, it's a high energetic particle, and it causes a crystal zircon dating is part of radiometric dating, but this one is slightly different. This is called cosmogenic radioisotope dating, or cosmogenic exposure dating, and it can tell you how long a particular rock has been exposed to the rate of to the rate of cosmic rays coming in. And this is a very interesting technique because it cuts in multiple different ways. Some samples give exposures of billions of years. Some of them give exposures of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, or millions of years. And this is because of the different time periods that they've actually been exposed. Because if you've got a rock surface that is accumulating all of these exotic isotopes in it because all of these cosmic rays are hitting it, and then there's some big erosion event, now you've got completely new rock. And so we can see these new rocks being exposed through erosion events. So it cuts in both ways as against the young Earth hypothesis, because we've got rocks that have been exposed for billions of years. We've got rocks that have been eroded and exposed for hundreds of thousands of years, but not billions, and certainly not individual thousands. So so now we've got 3 independent processes: the weak nuclear force and radiometric dating, amino acid racemization, and cosmogenic exposure age dating. And all of these procedures give identical results, and they give results that are consistent with dendrochronology, with VAR chronology, with ice core chronology, with
Volcanology.
with speleothem chronologies, and growth ring chronologies from corals. All of these techniques give consistent results, and none of those results are consistent with the young Earth.
How many? Let me ask you this: how many verifying, Robert? How many techniques that would verify each other would you need to acknowledge that you're wrong?
I honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you that.
Well, let me ask you a
understand
slightly
how,
different
one
question.
second. Do you understand how bad that makes you look?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Is it logically
let me
possible
ask,
that you are
let
wrong?
me ask you this: how many cases does it take? Show me one common ancestor, just one.
Of what?
Australopithecus africanus, amigo.
Common ancestors of what? Name two organisms that you want common ancestors for.
What did it become?
Us.
So hang on. You need to ask the question properly. Are you asking for a common ancestor for 2 different species, 2 different modern species? Okay. Which species?
Anything.
Okay. So we can identify, for instance, the species from which modern whales are descended.
Yeah.
Was it a whale?
How is that? Pardon?
Was it a whale that it descended from?
No.
Not in the modern sense, but this is again, you think you're asking meaningful questions and you're not.
Okay. Allow me to jump back a little.
It was a whale.
Allow me to explain why your question is misposed, and then you can jump back a little.
No, you don't need to.
No. I'm going to explain why your question is misposed, and then you can jump back. The ancestors of whales were not whales. The descendants of whales will be whales. So whales goes downstream in time, but it doesn't go upstream in time. Okay?
It was an even
the ancestor of whales is not necessarily a whale, right?
Yes, they were
even toed. Became a whale.
I beg
They
your
were
pardon?
even-toed ungulate quadrupedal land mammals, and whales are even-toed ungulate quadrupedal land mammals that also happen to be cetaceans. They're ocean mammals. They're descendants of quadrupedal land mammals, though, and that's why they still have a pentadactyl forelimb. That's why they're sometimes born with atavistic leg buds. That's why they're more genetically similar to hippos than they are to any ocean organism. That's why they have all the mammal traits. They have hair. They feed their young with milk secreted from mammary glands. All of those different lines of evidence all match each other and support the same conclusion that whales evolved from these even-toed ungulate quadrupedal land mammal ancestors. And one of the dead to rights clues of that is the fact that even the ancestors have specific ear bones that only exist in whales.
Common design does not mean it came from there.
Well, but that would be a meaningful response had you established that any design was involved, which you have not. Nor have you established that the possibility of a designer is one that we need to take into account. At no point has it been established that we need a designer for a new any style of animal. You can get there through genetic pressure, through evolutionary pressure.
Why do whales have fingers in their like flippers?
I'm sorry?
Why do whales have fingers in their flippers? If they're flippers, it would be more efficient to just have a flat bone, but they have fingers just like us.
Yeah, you have 26 or 27 bones in your hand, and a whale has 26 or 27 bones, the exact same bones in the exact same place. Dolphin has 26 or 27 bones. Go on Google and look up a picture of a dolphin hand bone and a human hand bone. They look almost exactly the same.
Well, let me ask you another question.
A car has four wheels and a diesel truck has four wheels. Did we get diesel trucks for cars?
Rob,
oh my God, that is the dumbest thing you've said so far.
Design doesn't mean descendants.
Rob, how about you listen? So how many neck vertebrae do you have?
We could speculate about the patterns.
No. I asked you a question, Rob. Are you going to be intellectually honest enough to answer it or not?
But I'm curious to know how you think something became a whale, and yet a whale will never become something else.
Oh, they will.
Because that's how cladistics works, and your inability to understand set theory is a you problem.
Cars don't have babies.
Cars do not have babies. Let's have a look at design. Let's have a look at the design argument. So you will acknowledge that most marine animals, fish, dolphins, etc., have very similar design characteristics, right?
Sure.
Why do they not have similar genetics?
I thought we were 99% similar to a banana.
You're completely wrong about that. So maybe don't go around parading your ignorance. Why are whales very genetically different? Why do you have 7 neck vertebrae, which is exactly the same number of neck vertebrae as a giraffe, and also the exact same number of neck vertebrae as a whale? Why do you, if you're designing a whale, why does the whale need as many neck vertebrae as a giraffe does?
We can ask the why question back and forth all night long. Why does a giraffe have a system?
And there's no good answer, but you're the one trying to establish that design answers the question. So you have to answer the question using design. And if you can't answer the question using design, then you have to say, I'm just making shit up to substantiate my beliefs.
Speaking of design,
I'm trying to make you show me that small changes accumulated that resulted in the tree of life diversity that we see.
Dude,
Robert,
ask you a question.
Whales have genes in their genome.
Hold on, Austin. Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so I've been quiet for a while, but I just want to ask Robert. You're a Christian, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I am too. I was a young Earth creationist for many years. I came to the understanding that God is powerful enough. If the truth of belief in God, He is big enough, powerful enough, and smart enough to understand how design works. He did not have to redesign every single individual creature independently of one another. There's no problem with a belief in a creator God, the biblical creator God, of designing and creating the universe in a mechanistic way that we don't understand at this moment. So belief in God and belief in the use of evolution through that natural that process, they're not necessarily in opposition to one another. Let me also say this: if you believe in the fall of man, and if you believe that animals did not eat other animals prior to the fall, then you have to believe in one of the single most immaculately fast versions of universal evolution to have ever taken place in a vast majority of all creatures, because Every creature, lion, bear, jaguar, cheetah, vulture, any carrion eating animal had to develop a entire new digestive system, teeth, all those formulations to be able to consume meat and to be able to digest meat within a 6-day time frame, or actually within a 1-day time frame. So for you to deny evolution over a long period of time would require you to accept evolution in a single 24-hour moment of time. And the reality is that what is more logical? I believe God is a God of logic, and I believe that we can logically look at our universe and see that the time frame in which our universe was created, designed, and did all the things that has been done, that a God is smart enough to have done it in that capacity and in that fashion. So I don't think that there needs to be a debate between these two things. Bottom line, as a Christian, none of this stuff has anything to do with whether or not Jesus lived on the earth, died, rose from the dead, and you're saved. Those issues, whether or not God is real, whether or not heaven is real, any of those things, those are complete. This is something called a secondary or even a tertiary level issue. So these are not salvation issues. So I as an encouragement, because I know that you're kind of getting beat up left and right here, and I respect Tony, and I respect I don't know what is A, whatever A stands for, Mr. Sims.
You can just call me Sims. Sims or Austin is fine.
So even though they don't necessarily believe the same way, and they're coming at it from a I believe atheistic evolutionary perspective, I don't want you to feel beaten down in that that you have to believe either one way or the other, that it's either God or science, that because those two sides can truly be coexistent and happily so. So
No, they can't.
I hear you what you're saying, but they absolutely can.
Yeah.
And young Earth creationism, my friend, truthfully has not been the deciding perspective of theologians for as long as you might think. It's only been very recently that a 6,000-year-old Earth perspective has actually been in place. That's not what the original writers wrote. Hebrew, the word, and I don't know if you were here when I said this before, but in Hebrew, the word yom, which is what the word day comes from, has about 6 or 7 different meanings. It can mean a 24-hour time frame. It can mean a morning to an evening. It can mean an evening to an evening. It can mean a time span. So like, the day of King David, it talks about in Psalms. We know David lived for more than 24 hours, right? Of course. But the day, that is a span of time as an understanding. So you do not have to take a literalistic view of that for you to believe that hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. You don't have to take a literalistic view of that piece to understand and believe the Bible is a literal truth, because it is built up of different types of language. There's history, there's poetry, there's metaphor, there are letters, there's apocalyptic language. The Bible is not a single book. It is a collection of 66 different books by multiple authors over thousands of years. That's actually a more beautiful representation of what the truth of the Bible is than trying to pigeonhole it into this singular viewpoint that didn't come around until just maybe a few hundred years at most ago, my friend. So take a deep breath and just recognize that while right now it might feel like what I'm saying is wrong, I want you to know that the reality is that this is not a primary issue when it comes to your salvation. It is not a make it or break it issue for the existence or the truth of God. It is an issue that we can all view differently. And as Scripture says, we may know in part, we may see in part. There will come a time when we will know in full and see in full. So, just wanted to share that with you, and just give you that little bit of peace.
Yep.
Well,
All right. So we're going to start winding down because the Japanese Grand Prix is about to start. So I'm going to go watch that. But
can I make
Robert,
one quick point?
Randall is correct and you're wrong.
No,
Sorry.
no. One quick point, please.
Oh.
Please, one quick point. Please.
Yeah.
If you read the passages of Genesis, the word day may mean different things, but the
How
creation
can you
story,
have day? How can you have day without the sun, dummy?
because the term day means 24 hours.
One spin, yeah.
Let me
One
finish.
spin.
Let me
No, no,
finish.
no, no, no,
Let
no,
me
no.
finish.
It means
Let
one
me
spin
finish.
of the earth. So you can't have. You can't
That
have
is what
that.
the day means to us, but it is a measurement of 24 hours. What is an hour? A
No,
rotation of the earth.
no,
We've made these names for things. We
no.
created that name. But the point I've tried to say is in Genesis, it says the evening, the morning, the first day. The first
Yeah.
day consisted of one evening and one morning. Therefore, we cannot make day into era.
Dummy, listen. How can you have day, morning, and night if you don't have the sun?
The terminology within
Because
that
these are things that man has created, just like the taxonomy is.
you're incorrect in that, my friend. The Hebrew totality of that morning and evening just means it is a statement of the beginning of an and an ending. So the morning and the evening is a symbolism of the beginning and of the end. That's why whenever we saw in Passovers, whenever you saw in other places in the Exodus, any of those festivals, they started in the beginning in the morning as a symbol of when it was to begin, and then the ending. So you got to remember when you're reading scripture, you've got to read it from the then and there versus the here and now. You've got to read it in the mindset of a first century Hebrew to understand. You're reading it and you're doing something that this is called eisegesis. And eisegesis is when you read into a scripture a perspective that is not in there. You've got to exegete the scripture properly, meaning you've got to understand what it meant to the original author and to the original audience. Those individuals were originally the nomadic Hebrew at the time would not have understood that process. They would have understood, though, a beginning of a time frame would be the morning, and the end of a time frame would have been the evening. And so that's why it says the morning, the in the evening. That's just what the terminology means. It is not a scientific 24-hour time span. Now, again, the word yom in Hebrew has multiple meanings. Look it up, my friend. Look at the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance and look up the word day in Genesis and look it up in there. And you will see that it is a longer frame of time. So again, that I'm just sharing with that, man. As someone who I was a younger creationist, I am still very much a Christian. I still very much would fight with Max and Sim and Tony, all day long about and they know this because I've done it.
We've had very interesting chats and yeah.
Have we argued?
I think we still have a debate pending about if Jesus fulfilled prophecy or something like that. But I like you too much. I don't want to do that to you.
But I don't recall arguing. I don't recall arguing with the bearded doctor because I don't consider.
I think I've argued with you on anything.
I don't consider it necessary to attack faith. That's not my objective. But a literal interpretation of the Bible is just not defensible. It is just completely at odds with reality.
Hold on, because we have these doofus saying, listen to this. The globe needs the sun to exist. I mean, the sun is right there, motherfucker. That's why Genesis and the globe model are incompatible. The bearded doctor isn't a biblical Christian. He's a pastor. He has he runs a church, dumb fuck.
The entire suggestion that Christianity is restricted to only those revelations afforded in the Bible, I find offensive, because God has, when I was a Christian, I certainly believed that God had communicated messages through other people. While the Bible is an important work, it's not the only one. It's not the only form of divine revelation that we have access to. So, the idea that you are constrained, if you're a Christian, to interpret the Bible as a literal truth. My academic speciality is the study of paleo sea level change. The Noah's flood myth is gibberish. It is utterly inconsistent with the scientific data that is available to us. There is no evidence whatsoever that can support or be used to argue in favor of Noah's flood. And anybody who says otherwise is just lying, right? They're just bullshitting. As plausible as their arguments may sound, they're just lying.
Yeah,
I am a living
limestone alone
embodiment.
just
I am a living embodiment that the Tower of Babel story is false because I'm bilingual.
Robert,
So,
I
all right.
want to.
Final. Hold
Yeah.
on. Final. We need to go. Final thoughts, but we have like 7 minutes, so everyone needs to be like very short on their final thoughts because I want to start the race on time.
Here's my final thought, Robert.
You got it.
If you read the Bible and it says God is mighty, since you have to read the Bible literally, is it saying God is jacked? Like God's just totally swole with a six-pack and huge biceps? No, obviously not. That's a silly way to read it. It's saying God is a powerful spirit, not that God is like some bodybuilder who would tie down a gaggle of ass at the titty bar. Okay, so I think your reading of the Bible, it's wooden, it's stilted, and it's a little childishly literal. And that would be my final thought.
All right, Colorado Biker, welcome. And sorry you just got at the tail end. Welcome and final thoughts, please. All right, Isa, final thoughts. Why are you hiding under your covers?
Oh, because I'm a little bit chilled, so
okay.
I'm going to be in my blanket. I'm in my blanket right now, getting ready for the sleep.
All right, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, like I said it earlier on, Dr. Hovind is a gift to mankind. His insights are incredible. They're unbelievable. They're profound. I think all the modern advancements in science come from his wondrous insights. Any kind of scientific inquiry that we have comes from Dr. Hovind. It comes from his beautiful analysis of the Bible. It's spectacular. It makes you I want to whack an atheist. That's exactly what you want to do when you hear about everything that he said during the debate. Everything he shares is novel. It's new. It's transformative. It's profound.
Okay, we get it. You're sarcastic.
You're on my shit list, Isa.
I'm so sorry, but it is. I am just transformed by his teachings, and I think many of you were transformed by what he had to say. That's it. So on the other side of our good friend Dr. Newkirk, he presented science, he presented facts, and actually talked about public health and talked about how diseases are transmitted, and he talked, he made an argument about engaging, what is it called, the microevolution, where he was like, well, what happens when you actually have a virus? How do you deal with this virus? What kinds of things do you do? Of course, the wonderful Dr. Hovind had many answers to say, which are just the same repeated script that we keep hearing every time. But that script answers all the questions. So I think that is my final thoughts. I'm voting for I'm voting for Dr. Ken Hovind for president. We need to have him as the president of America.
Oh my God, no. No, don't say that. That is just nasty. All right. Isa,
that's it. I'm done.
No, you're banned. No, never. Like that. That was way too. That was just a step too much. Bearded Doctor, thank you. Thank you for trying to reach out to poor dummy here, but I don't think that there's one neuron there fighting to breathe. So go ahead. Sorry.
I'll give him more credit than that. I appreciate him coming up. I appreciate you coming up into the metaphorical lion's den, even to have that discussion, because there's a lot of folks that wouldn't do it. I'll give you a challenge. Check out Hugh Ross, Dr. Hugh Ross with Reasons to Believe. And also check out that's a good he's a good he's actually an astrophysicist he's an old Earth creationist, but Reasons to Believe has a bunch of really great videos on the topic of understanding old Earth creationism and understanding it from that perspective. So highly recommend checking them out. There, if you're a reader, there's a great book called Four Views, and it actually gives a great dialogue between a old Earth creationist. I think Ken Ham or Ken Hovind, one of them, I don't know, is an old Earth creationist, young Earth creationist, the framework view, and another one that it actually gives a really good discussion. It's called Four Views on Creationism. We highly recommend reading it. As for the debate, I'm not a Ken Hovind fan. I think that he has done a great disservice because of the way that he debates is not debating, it is monologuing. And I think that he monologues himself regardless of what's being said to him. And then when he gets a perspective that he doesn't understand, he just dismisses it and plays it off. Again, I mentioned earlier, I'm a professor of philosophy. One of the things I teach my students in day 2 of our philosophy class is understanding that when you are presented with a viewpoint that is contrary to what your strongly held belief system is, it actually hits your brain in the same way, chemically in the same way that fear hits your brain. So your fight or flight reflexes go up when you are presented with a viewpoint that is contrary to what you believed for a long time. So I have no doubt in my mind, my friend, that hearing these other perspectives, you are immediately being shut off and saying, nope, I don't believe it. But I would ask you to take down that defense mechanism for just a minute and just hear out the other side. I'm not even asking you to believe it, just hear out the other side, and you would be amazed at understanding to what you might understand and to hear from that perspective. So all that to be said, thanks again for always allowing me to come on and yammer. I appreciate it. And yeah, and you're right, Dr. Tony, you and I have never debated in any capacity before. I was just using that as a discussion point that
but we've had some nice discussions with
and I've enjoyed it.
All right,
that area of the brain is called the amygdala, and it gets activated. And there's also another area of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex that gets activated, and that's the area that experiences pain. So it is physically painful to confront cognitive.
I need to go. Sorry, Tony.
Okay, I'm going to keep it quick. My objective is never to attack Christianity. I was a Christian for 35 years. I am no longer a Christian, but that's my personal journey. I feel no need to convert anybody to atheism, but it is a simple fact, scientific, objectively proven, that the Bible contains many incorrect narratives that can be disproven archaeologically, scientifically. People like Kent Hovind who claim the contrary are liars and frauds who rely on the ignorance of their audience. I encourage you to follow up on what the bearded doctor said and seek out Christians who can explain the science to you, because it's not an attack. Science is not an attack on your faith. It's not meant to be an attack on you. You are presenting some arguments that are quite tired and quite simplistic. I think you're doing that because that's what you've been presented. You've been presented with those. But regardless, just read up on it, study it. We're not trying to attack you. We're not trying to attack your faith. We're just trying to educate you, because if you persist in factually incorrect positions when the science tells us that you're just wrong, you just make your religion look foolish. That's my perspective anyway.
All right. You, Robert, final thoughts?
Thank you for letting me on, and I hope that I'm open to coming back in another open debate episode. I'd like to point out that when I asked for a common ancestor, you gave me a proto whale, but that wasn't a common ancestor to two species. So there's still no common ancestor that you showed me. And again, I'd like to come back to get my answers if I'm allowed.
Sure, I mean, we
That's
always do.
that's just nonsensical bullshit, and I'm not going to let it stand. There are multiple species that are whales.
Yes. So we did give you what you asked for, and you cried, and that's why I called you dummy, because that's what I do with the flat earthers, for example. So we did give you twice what
if you're going to be intellectually dishonest about it, don't expect civility in return. You asked for a common ancestor. We gave you a common ancestor for a whole suite of species. I asked you to specify exactly what the fuck you were asking for, and you didn't specify that it had to be a common ancestor for 2 species. You said that it could be a common ancestor for any number of species. And then when presented with that, you said, well, that's not what I asked for. I asked you what the fuck you meant, and now you're lying about it to my face. Don't fucking do that, because it pisses me the fuck off.
We get Krakatoa. But yeah, I mean, we can give you anything you ask for, because evolution, kind of like gravity, is one of the things that are most studied and most tested and so on. So I did even give you scientific papers on human evolution. So we could do this all day, but the Japanese Grand Prix is about to start, and I'm going to watch that. I'm sorry I cut you off, Austin. I love everything you bring up, but it's Formula One time. Let's freaking go. Before we go, make sure to do the social thing: is like, share, subscribe, send this to a friend, send this to your Steve. Go to the corner, yes, the corner of your street, and just subscribe to Yerba Mate Talks. Tomorrow, and that way we can share that up for the channel. Sorry, tomorrow we might do some derping out with Flirt or some other kind of derp. We did an extremely interesting alpha male channel that I discovered. It was primo derp. If you like that, it was so good. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We're planning part 2 with the ladies of Yerba Mate Talks to see how they feel about this whole alpha male bullshit. So thank you all for coming here, everyone on the panel, everyone over there in the side chat. Love you all. Take care. Have a great night. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.